I'll just say our involvement had nothing to do with that meeting getting scheduled.
So things are moving forward.
Right.
It's getting there.
Yes.
But again, it's one of those deals where you don't want to deal with this right now. It's a bad situation to deal with right in this. I mean, if we were out of the playoff situation, I wouldn't give a shit.
In a perfect world, I would never want to deal with this. But yeah,
in a perfect situation, I think you want to deal with in the offseason.
That would be preferable.
When you can bring things like this to the table and be like, well, we don't have games going on.
It's boiling over now.
Of course it is. Right. And it's a bad deal that's boiling over.
So, do you want to deal with it now? But do you have to? Maybe you do.
I don't know if United did have to deal with it right now.
And I'll just say a little bit. I don't want to get too...
You can get whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Feel free.
The best way that we've found out that works in dealing with MLS is visual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Television, being on television, advertisers seeing what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And the only time to do that, unfortunately,
is during the season.
Is during the season, and especially towards the end of the season.
That's right. Yep.
When there's a lot more matches on television.
So
I get you.
Let's talk about this issue.
Okay. Absolutely.
If people don't know, we kind of addressed it already. The Iron Front is the symbol of a group that originated in 1933.
Right.
In response to Nazi Germany.
Correct.
In response to totalitarianism in general that was boiling over at that time.
Yep.
It is arguably a very quote-unquote political symbol. Now,
can be.
I think everyone here knows my opinion on the ban.
Yeah.
I believe that, let's just be adolescent, I believe that MLS are a bunch of asshats. I think they're completely idiotic in doing this. I think
like Don Garber?
I can 1,000% agree with you on this.
I just think it's absurd and fucking ridiculous that they're trying to dictate how fans and supporters can express their individual beliefs. I'm also a reasonable person. I'm a very rational person. So, if this policy exists, and they have to have this stupid, arbitrary word of political, in my opinion, I guess I understand what they're getting at. I believe it was Portland's FO said that their view of the IF symbol was that it was the historical view is anti-communist, anti-fascist, anti-monarchy. Therefore, it's obviously political. Now, obviously, things transpired during that time of history that were very human rights oriented.
Correct.
That's right.
I don't think we need to be reminded what the Nazis did.
Right.
And so you start hitting this line where human rights and politics start intersecting.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm an anarchist, capitalist, who believes that government is shit. The only reason government exists is to oppress people. We shouldn't have it. And I believe that in terms of human rights issues, they're generally issues because government created them. So why in the world would we want politics to be involved with human rights issues? Because politics are what made them issues to begin with. So for me, I like to try to separate the two. That's my opinion. That's how I view it. However, again, as I said, I'm a rational human being and understand that, well, politics created the issue. Politics aren't going anywhere. So we have to use politics to deal with the issues.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're back to square one where politics and human rights issues intersect. So now we're dealing with a situation where we have the symbol that's inherently political. However, it represents a time of history, represents a situation today where we have individuals, groups. To what degree those groups and individuals have any real authority or any influence is left to be seen. who still believe, for whatever ungodly reason, that people are different. There are differences between people and their identity, the differences between people and their race, their genetic makeup somehow makes them inferior, which is completely fucking absurd. But for whatever reason, they exist. So how do we deal with this situation when we have an arbitrary word in a code of conduct that says political? And whether or not these talks on Thursday amount to anything at all.
Right.
And there's probably a good chance that, knowing how MLS is, there's probably a good chance that it won't change anything too
Right.
much. How do we deal with a situation where we have an organization such as Major League Soccer who is trying to pigeonhole a symbol? I mean, it's literally one single symbol.
Right.
And saying, well, this is political. Well, is it political? I mean, how do we address that? I mean, do we continue to see more protests?
Yes.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
I think we do.
yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm all for a financial boycott of no longer spending money on anything MLS.
Which is,
Well,
I'm already there. I haven't spent any money in the stadium since June. I haven't worn any Minnesota United merchandise since July.
Well,
I just bought a new jersey. Come on, man.
I have anything that associated that has any financial impact on MLS.
Sure.
Which also, for my boycott personally, any of their major sponsors I've boycotted since July as well.
okay.
Which includes Target, which has been really fucking difficult.
Yeah.
But that's, for me, and the way I would want to see it go, that's where I would take that's where I would be the next step. I have no problems with their in front symbol being in the stands. Up until March, I didn't even know what the hell it was, to be honest. I had no clue. So I understand why it's being flown. As far as me flying it, I fly it to show it's a beacon for
LA's.
people
Right.
that feel
Yeah.
targeted,
Yeah.
that you can come to me with this symbol, it's a safe space.
And let's bring this to another level.
Yeah.
Let's bring this to a level above MLS, though.
Right.
Where I like to bring it, because political in this country right now, political stuff is crazy, right?
Oh yeah. It's all
You have sponsors, you have a president, you have some senators who are they don't like this type of stuff. They hate it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the question is,
Because-
can you keep politics out of
No.
sports or MLS?
You can't
specifically?
if you have sponsors who are into politics.
Right.
They support politicians.
well,
And that might be one of the causes of this. Big sponsors of MLS might be one of the causes of this whole thing.
And that's a reality. You know, you have an issue where the general population tries to avoid these topics because guess what? No one wants to talk about fucking Nazis. It's
Exactly.
2019.
They don't.
I mean,
Right.
no one wants to talk about fascism. Well, guess what? Our country has been relatively fascist since 1910. I mean, the
Absolutely.
reality is, fascism has always been kind of something that's existed,
Right.
and people have ignored it because in this country we've just kind of accepted
We've downplayed it.
The
Yes.
system
Yeah.
works.
Yes. We've accepted the system. We've downplayed
Right.
what it is.
Exactly right.
And we obviously haven't had to the extent of something like the Holocaust, thank God.
Right.
No.
However, at the same time, we go further back and we have had really shitty things such as slavery, such as the entire marginalization of that exact race through to today.
Exactly.
But we still manage to work through it, and we try to not have these discussions because, frankly, it's fucking uncomfortable to have these conversations. So we don't like to talk about them.
Exactly.
But soccer's a bit different. It's always been a bit different.
Yes.
All
Oh,
the
yeah.
fans have been
Yes,
a
it
bit
is.
different. You know, we're all about fighting for a sport that gets no respect in this country.
Yep.
And we're all a little We're all a little crazy in the head, probably, because we're supporters that show ourselves in very different ways than other supporters.
That's true.
And we have a very strong influence from overseas, especially Europe, where they've dealt with that stuff firsthand.
Yeah.
And they still deal with that stuff on an incredibly different level than what we do.
Absolutely.
And it's a thing where we've kind of adopted this activist culture within soccer. And when we're sitting here and we're talking about politics and we're trying to say, well, you know, I want to go watch a soccer game. I don't want to see political symbols. I see this. I spend way too much time on Twitter during the day, and I see that response over and over and over. Shut up. The reality is, we can't get away from that necessarily because it's just ingrained.
This is a new thing, though. This is a new thing for America.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And it's gotten so ingrained in society that sponsors are involved now.
Because sponsors for major sporting events, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, don't have to deal with this shit. They don't, because they've been Americanized.
Yeah.
Because in MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, you don't have supporters groups.
Well, you see it shut down pretty quickly if it arises.
Exactly right.
Exactly. I mean, you look
That's
at
right.
Colin Kaepernick.
Get
What's happening?
blackball.
Exactly right.
I mean, it's
You don't
shut
have
down.
this. So you get people who are sponsoring things going, oh, MLS, I'll sponsor Coke or whatever it is. And they go, oh, this doesn't happen in Major League Baseball or football.
Right.
We need to get rid of this. We don't like this.
You know what, though?
It happens.
I'm going to go and say this, though, and I'm happier that we are on this side of fighting against, you know, racism, fascism, and everything. You look at Italy and all the shit that they're dealing with in their soccer stuff,
Oh,
and
yeah.
how bad the racism is towards some of the players.
Oh, I know.
And all over Europe and everything like that.
Yeah.
That looks so much worse than what we are trying to fight.
Right.
Or trying to
Right.
you know, I don't know, be against, fight for, you know, whatever. Like, I would rather be, well, this group and MLS and everything as a whole is trying to fight for what is right for the human race, rather than you hear full supporters groups doing monkey chants and shit against
And
people trying to take a penalty kick, and that is
that's not cool.
And that's what we're
no,
steering
that is
at.
horseshit.
not cool.
And that's what
That's
we're
horseshit.
steering at now, is we're trying to be proactive
Yeah.
and get rid of all that crap before it gets to that point.
And you know, I think that's what makes it even more difficult from our perspective is
Right.
the regular fan in the United States doesn't see that.
Right.
Of course they don't.
Because it doesn't happen here.
Right.
You know, everyone mostly thinks, well, we dealt with that issue 30 years ago.
Or
And
even,
it's
even
getting
longer.
better.
It
Yeah.
wasn't this generation of people.
Yeah, exactly. And
But I think-
it's harder to push an agenda when the target of that agenda doesn't really seem to be visible.
That's because nobody believes it's here.
Right.
I mean,
No.
if you talk to anybody, any Joe Schmo in Minnesota, they're going to be like, there's no Nazis here. There's no
No.
white supremacists. My gosh, they're all over.
Well, and it just, what was it, 2 days ago? Somebody on Twitter, can't remember who it was, I interact with him a lot. He posted pictures of St. Paul.
Mike's son.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of the Patriot Front. Flyers, stickers, all over St. Paul. And I'm like,
So
that's a pretty fascist group.
just to put it into my perspective, I saw 3 of those banners
Oh, did you?
Yep.
on my way between my house and Dual Citizen Brewing, which is about 4 blocks from my house.
See, I mean, that's just
So
And
That's
people need to
incredible.
get educated because they're just like, oh, yeah.
Right.
They don't understand the meaning behind it.
right.
I think we're all political here at this table right now because I think we all watched soccer in Europe
Yeah.
and World Cup stuff, and we've seen all that.
Right.
We know what it's about.
Right.
We've seen it.
And really, the support culture in the United States.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you take 2,000 members of the supporters group, 1,990 of them are following European soccer.
Exactly right.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's ingrained in us as soccer supporters to understand that this stuff exists. So how do we address it when we have people in the United States that say, well, look, I've never seen this in our state.
Not even just